Did you have any self-doubt or imposter syndromes, and how did you overcome, or what advice do you have for us to the business owners as well as the investors? Sometimes they doubt, they hesitate. So how to overcome all those fears or doubts?
Here's what I would tell you. We've learned a lot building the company, and I always go back to what Charlie Tremendous Jones. He was a speaker, and a lot of people don't know him. I know him. I'm 70 years old. I remember coming out of college and hearing him talk, and he made a comment one time. I never forgot this. He said, we're all a product of the books we read or the people we meet. And today, of course, you'd expand that to say the time you spend on the internet. You can go to YouTube University and learn just tremendous amount of stuff. And I think human nature never really changes.
This is the Real Estate Wife Show. I'm your host, Vinki Loomba. As a real estate investor and a fund manager, I'm always excited to explore the world of real estate opportunities with you and for you. On today's episode, I'm excited to welcome Joe Williams, a true visionary in the real estate world. As a co-founder of Keller Williams Realty, Joe helped build the largest privately held real estate franchise globally. He's also the driving force behind JW Development and Joe Williams Land Bank Fund, shaping the future of real estate development. Welcome, Joe, to the Wife Show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I know, I'm thrilled to have you with me today. I cannot wait to dive into your journey. We all know in real estate, resilience during the downturn markets, having a long-term vision and spotting high-value opportunities are absolutely crucial to success. Joe embodies that strategic mindset. He's all about adaptability and foresight, and that's exactly what happened him grow Keller Williams into a global powerhouse. His journey is filled with valuable lessons on navigating evolving markets and scaling businesses. And I'm so excited to dive deeper into his insights today. We picked a very cool topic. Our topic for today is Mind for Real Estate Success, Lessons from a Global Empire. So, Joe, let me ask you this. Building Keller Williams into a global powerhouse took time. I'm pretty sure it did. So how did you maintain a long-term vision? Did you face any short-term challenges or any setbacks?
We were very fortunate, Vinki, in that Gary Keller, my partner, we had been in the real estate business as sales guys for years. We both managed offices for the same broker, who was a really good guy too. He was a very strong independent. And the benefit that Gary and I had when we went out on our own was primarily all we did was to come up with the Pepsi challenge. And by that, I mean, okay, here's the 10 things that you need to do to run a real estate brokerage business. How do we make these 10 things better? That's really all we did. But we started in 1983. By 1986, one of the worst recessions ever recorded in the US hit Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Louisiana. Well, we were a Texas-based company. Oil dropped to $8 a barrel. You had the S&L prices. A lot of your listeners maybe weren't even born then. Anyhow, it was really bad. And that's when Gary and I sat down and said, you know what? Maybe what we need to do is rethink how brokers and agents work with each other. And that was really our secret sauce. And one of the biggest changes we made is we said, you know what? When somebody picks a real estate agent, they're really picking the agent. They're not picking the company. You know, if three guys are out there playing golf and one of them says, hey, I'm getting transferred up to Bellevue, Washington to work for Microsoft. He then turns around to the other three guys and he says, who do you know who's a good agent? They don't say, who do you know who's a good company? That's not what they do. And it's kind of like when you're young and you have that first baby and you got to go find a pediatrician. Well, what do? Well, you ask your friends, hey, who's a good pediatrician? Do you like your pediatrician? Why do you like them? And so we went back to our agents and said, you know what? We're going to build a company that's all about you, not about us. We're not going to spend any money promoting who we are. I'm going to spend all the money promoting Vinki. And I'm going to show her how to go run her own company, how to hire a team, how to really control her future in the real estate industry. In fact, I'll tell you a great story, Vinki, that this sets the tone. A good friend of mine was an ER doctor. He ran the emergency room or Seton hospital chain here in Texas. He said, you know what, Joe? The very best hospitals come to the conclusion that they don't really have the patients, the doctors do. So what they need to do is concentrate on the very best doctors who take care of their patients, but they need a really good surgical operation to perform their business. Well, that's when Gary and I looked at each other and said, you know what? We need to become the hospital because we don't have the buyers and sellers, our agents do. So we're going to put the whole focus on how these agents can go build their business. And that propelled us from two guys in my living room to 200,000 agents today around the world.
Wow.
And I mean, you know, there's an old line that I read a long time ago, and it's great. And it's this: innovation is seeing what everyone sees, but thinking what no one has thought. And that was Gary and I back in those early days, 41 years ago, going, you know what? We're not the brand. The agents are the brand. Let's redesign our company where they can go push their brand and build their business. And the benefit to that was we restructured everything where I didn't have to take a ton of money from them. All I needed was just a little bit of money on every deal. And I'm going to educate them, give them the technology, all the stuff. Now, they got to go out there and do it. I can't do it for them. But this was 41 years ago, a totally different approach by a real estate broker. Nobody thought like this. Every real estate broker said, no, what's mine is mine. You know, I'm going to pay for your signs. I'll give you their lock boxes. I'll pay for your ads. I'll do all that. But I'm going to split my commissions with you 50-50. And we went to the agents and said, no, we think that's stupid because that's building the company brand. We just don't think that's where the buyers and the sellers, we think they're looking for you. So we're going to give you all the stuff you need, but I'm not paying for any more advertising. I'm not spending a dime on advertising. But the trade-off is I'm going to start you at the highest commission split in the industry. Oh, and by the way, it was so successful, Vinki, that we were able to go back to the agents and say, you know what? After you sold 7 homes, you keep the rest of the commission for the remainder of the year. Well, they'd never heard of them. They're like, what? We call that a capping program. By the way, it only works if you get a lot of agents in the office.
That's true.
Okay.
Volume.
You have to scale. And I know your listeners will understand this, but the number one focus for them, as we've explained, is you got to be able to make a profit. Okay. Profit's very important.
That's
And
true.
we're doing this for charity. So for us to do really well as an office, we're going to put 100 of you in an office. And back in those days, Vinky, nobody did that. I mean, a
That's
big
true.
office back in those days was 30 people. And
That's
as we continued to succeed, these offices got bigger and bigger and bigger.
true.
And that's okay. You know, I have to take off tomorrow and fly up to Detroit because I'm going to go watch my beloved Texas Longhorns beat the Michigan Wolverines on Saturday.
Mhm.
And the company that makes that airplane, it's a big company. And you know what? I like that. Because if big is organized, it can be very powerful. If big is not organized, it can be absolute chaos.
I agree
So
on that 100%. But let me interject for a second. Let me ask you this question. You said you did this 41 years ago, and nobody was thinking like that. You were thinking out of the box, something new, new strategy, new way of handling things, and without having thinking that you're gonna grow that big. But you had a vision, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. Between you and your partner, how did that start, and how you guys were seeing things beyond the average person's vision, or where the average person's vision ends, that's where your vision started. So if you can shed some light on that.
well, let me just tell you what we did was we discovered probably one of the most amazing business systems in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready for this? It's
Yeah.
called franchising.
Oh, okay.
And that was our deal.
Mm-hmm.
Century 21 had already proved how you do this, back in the early 70s. And so we sat down and said, okay, what if we come up with a way that you run the office and then we're able to sell that idea to other owner operators? That way we can grow this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll share a very neat story with you. So we started in 83.
Mm-hmm.
By 93, we had 60 offices in those 4 states: Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Colorado. And we hired a guy, Bain Hinion, great guy, came down from Charlottesville, Virginia, very good consultant. And he interviewed everybody and he looked at our system and he came back and he said 2 things. Number one, I love your ideas about how you treat your agents and stuff. Obviously, I think you guys are on to something. Now, keep in mind, we only had 60 offices then. But the second thing he said, and this is a huge key to our success.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you guys don't know anything about franchising. And he was right.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, franchising is all about models and systems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm going to teach you all of the models and the systems that you have to have in place to be able to replicate yourself the way you're supposed to do it
Mm-hmm.
using the franchise model. And one of the first things he taught us was, I'm going to teach you 10 steps of how you find talented leaders. And Vicki, when you think about this, I went to school, right? I got a degree in real estate. And like I tell people, that in $5 gets me a cafe mocha at Starbucks. But I don't recall ever in college anybody sitting me down going, Joe, here's how you interview people. And when you think about it, I've got tons of friends in business all over the world, and all of them would say the same thing. No one's ever sat down and taught them how you interview people. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not a course anywhere. We all learn it through osmosis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this guy taught us how you do that, how you find them, how you interview them, how you go through a 10-step process to hire them. And by the way, by step 5, if you're not a fit, I know it. And more importantly, you know it. So I tell you this because when the 07, 08, 09 recession hit, you remember that just terrible real estate recession? We were the only company that grew. Everybody else went backward. Why? Because we had studied with Bain and we knew how you go find talented leaders. That's the key. And if you can run a company where of the 4 things that it takes to run a company, item number 3 is always go get the best people.
That's true.
No matter what problems occur, when you got the best people in place, it's amazing how they figure it out. Right?
Yeah, it's more than one mind, actually. You said it very well, because that's the secret of scaling. But let me ask you this question too, for somebody new who's trying to set up a business, or even for the passive investors who are trying to set up a kind of a structure where the passive income is coming through all these real estate investments and all that. What kind of advice would you give them? How do they get started? And then what should they target? Because a lot of the people I have seen in my lifetime, what they lack is the vision or the target. Because they say, everybody's doing it, I want to do it. I want to do this thing because Vinki is doing it, Joe is doing it, they did that, I wanted to do that. But without having the clarity about their vision, that their address, where they want to be in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So that has to be a very clear address. That's the way I look at it. If your address is not clear, you're not able to get there. But I wanted to hear from your side, from your experience, because you have so solid experience in that space. If you can share with us those secrets, how to carve your path and get there wherever you want to be, including your mindset, everything.
Here's what I would tell you. I normally, when I'm working with the agents, I tell them, look, the secret to success is an acronym that I call VDPR. VDPR. Okay? V is, and you hit it on the nose, Vinki, it's vision. Okay? Every good company I've ever been involved with, the very first thing, it's kind of what I call the stable table theory. If you have a table with one leg, how stable is it? Well, it's not. 2 legs, it's not. 3 legs, it's a stool. Well, I'm not going to let my grandson on it. But if I build a table with 4 solid legs, I know it's going to be stable. So leg number 1 in anybody's success, yours, a company, an idea, is what I call clarity. Why are you doing this? Okay. I mean, why are you forming a real estate company?
Exactly.
The beauty that we had as Keller Williams was early on in those first 3 years, we started to understand why we exist. And it wasn't for the buyers and the sellers. It didn't have anything to do with them. It was to help our agents build their businesses. So for KW, that was our clarity. Because the minute we latched onto that, all the other decisions that we have to make were easy. Okay, does this help the agents build their business? No, it doesn't, then we don't need it. Okay, it's real simple.
Yeah.
So when you start out as an entrepreneur or you start out as an investor, your first thing to define is, okay, what's my vision for where I'm trying to go with this?
Exactly.
Am I trying to build passive income? Am I trying to be active? Am I trying to be surgical, or I get really good at one type of investing? And that's the Warren Buffett model. I mean, Warren would be the first one to tell you, hey, you can put all your eggs in your basket if you really understand the basket. Okay. And so having vision as to where it is you want to be, that's number 1. It's kind of like I tell people, when you're trying to lose weight, if you don't really sit down and define what losing 15 pounds means to you, And I'm talking about writing it down, going, well, number one, I'm going to fit all those clothes hanging in my closet. I don't have to go buy clothes. They're there.
Mhm.
Number two, my physical health is going to be better. For a guy my age, your age too, Vinki, that's the kind of stuff you got to look at. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like I've been to so many of these seminars, and rightfully so, everybody goes, look, the most
Mhm.
important asset you own is your health.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter how much money you're making. If you don't have your health, you got nothing.
That's true.
So start with that. That's an important part of your life. But having a vision, for Gary and I, it was never about the money.
Mhm.
I mean, we were making money. It was never about amassing massive. And what our whole deal is, there's got to be a better way to do this. You with me?
Mhm.
And so every successful person I've ever met, you ask them, hey, what are you doing today? They know, because it's part of a bigger vision that they've got.
Yeah.
And they look at that vision. They think, what is it? The Earl Nightingale in his Lead the Field series. I'll never forget that. My mom bought me those cassette tapes as a graduation present. God bless her. And lesson number 7 was, you will become what you think about.
That's true.
They call it, I mean, a guy wrote a book later, The Greatest Secret, whatever. Earl's whole deal is, if you want to be an airline pilot and you fix that in your head as your goal, it's amazing how you're going to get there.
Mhm.
But again, it starts with vision, clarity, knowing where you're trying to go, whether you're an individual or a company, I don't care.
Mhm.
Those with a really clear vision, it's amazing how they get there. So here's the deal. If you have the vision, the V, then you're going to acquire the D. And the D is the discipline to do the stuff that you need to make that vision happen. And here's the crazy thing. Real estate is an easy business. There's nothing complicated about it. There's really not. We have buyers, we have sellers. All we do is we go find the two and we put them together. That's all we do. It ain't
Mhm.
rocket science. I could teach someone in 3 days how to write a contract. And by the time they've written their 10th contract, they pretty much know how to fill it out. It ain't rocket science.
Mhm.
But without the discipline to go talk to people that they don't know, to tell them
Mhm.
who they are and what they do, you're not going to make any money.
Mhm.
So it's like I tell college kids, listen, whether you get a degree or not, it's not the critical thing. But let me just tell you this. Most of your success in the world is
Mhm.
going to be 3 things. Number one, my clarity as to what I'm going to do with my life, right?
Right.
Number
Mhm.
2, your determination, your ambition, because your
Exactly.
ambition is going to drive your determination, because not every day is a good day.
That's true
It's
too.
not.
Yeah. The way you look at it.
And then third, and this is important, your ability to convey and explain concepts and ideas to people. Okay?
That's very true.
Huge, huge.
Mhm.
So if I've got a vision as to where I'm trying to go, then I can acquire the discipline to make sure that I get those things done to get there. Because without the discipline, you're just going to fall into the same trap that everybody does. And that is that everybody gets comfortable where they are, and they're not, because they don't have that vision, they're not driving themselves to get somewhere. And every day when you get up, if your vision is strong in your head, you're going to have no problem doing the things you got to do. And if you're a rocket scientist, yeah, you got to go get the education. If you're a surgeon, yeah, you got to go get the education. But by and large, 80% of the jobs that are out there, and it can be very good jobs, they don't take a massive amount of study. You can learn what these jobs are,
Mhm.
but you got to have the discipline to go through the things to be successful. And if you
Mhm.
get that discipline, there's
Mhm.
one more thing that you need to do, and that's the P, and that's what I call planning. Okay. There's an old Hindu saying, I heard
Mhm.
years ago. I love it.
Mhm.
He who rides a tiger has a problem dismounting. Okay.
Mhm.
I don't know who I got that from, Vinki, but I've never forgot. And what the philosopher was saying is, when you get up in the morning, if you have a list of 5 things you got to get done today, when the tiger shows up and everybody wants a piece of you and you're talking and the mobile phone and the LinkedIn and the da da da, if you don't have a list of things that you got to get done, it's amazing how the day just gets away from you.
That's true. Mhm.
In fact, the example I always give agents when I'm training, I'll ask the class, hey, how many of y'all have taken a trip for 8 days? You know, and 3/4 of the hands go up. And I go, can I ask y'all a question? Why were y'all so massively productive the 5 days before you left for your trip?
Mhm.
And everybody starts to understand what happened. They made a list.
Right, exactly. Because we wanted to wrap up everything.
Because you know what's got to get done before you get out of town. So you make a list. And it's amazing how what we write down gets done.
Son.
And that's the P. That's the planning. And the thing I tell people about planning is, look, if you're consistent with when you do it, that's better. I find some people are morning people, some people are evening people. You with me? And I tend to plan at the end of the day because that's when my brain really is geared to that. And so when I get in the office next day, even though I've got, and the list is down here in my bag, I'm gonna look at that list and go, okay, what 5 things are my big rocks? And just go get your big rocks done. Because if you can do that, you'll be highly, highly successful. So V is vision, D is discipline, P is planning. And if you do all 3 of those, then you get the R, which is your results. And I'll also tell you this much, Vinki, for companies, my encouragement for a company or an entrepreneur or an investor is, think of your business along the stable table theory. What are the 4 things that I've got to get right for my business to operate the way I want it to operate? Okay. And that's kind of how we look at things like, and every business you can do that. I guarantee you there's 4 things, you know, number 3 being go get the best people. That's always number 3 to me. Number 4 would be go create a culture that is so cool inside your company that nobody wants to leave. And when you look at the very, very best companies, that's exactly what they've got.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. I love this VDPR. I'm going to keep that written on my desk all the time now. So I can keep that in my mind all the time. But I wanted to go back and ask you one more question regarding the self-doubt. Because, people have their own belief systems, their own limitations. Everybody has the same potential, I would say, if they tap into that. But most of the time, the way their upbringing is, the way they live, their friends, the society, the parents, the sibling, all that kind of impacts their personality, right? They become something, um, and they don't even realize, I mean, including me, we don't even realize sometimes who we have become. And we might have somebody else in our head, and which is not aligning with who we are, basically, right? So some alignment needs to be there. But beside that, I wanted to ask you this question is that, when you were starting early on, were there any self-doubts? Because everybody has imposter syndrome. And then, like I said, we have our own belief systems, our limitations and all that. And we always self-doubt. Like, if I do this, or what if, like I'm starting the podcast, I'm thinking, who's going to listen to my podcast? Or what do I have to share? How do I do this? All these what if questions, they're kind of showstoppers in it could be in anybody's life, right? So I wanted to hear from your experience when you started this. Did you have any self-doubt or imposter syndromes, and how did you overcome, or what advice do you have for us to the business owners as well as the investors? Sometimes they doubt, they hesitate. So how to overcome all those fears or doubts?
Here's what I would tell you. We've learned a lot building the company, and I always go back to what Charlie Tremendous Jones, he was a speaker, and a lot of people don't know him. I know him. I'm 70 years old. I remember coming out of college and hearing him talk. And he made a comment one time, I never forgot this. He said, we're all a product of the books we read or the people we meet. And today, of course, you'd expand that to say the time you spend on the internet. Because you can go to YouTube University and learn just tremendous amount of stuff. And I think human nature never really changes. So it's easy to get to a point, it's like we say in real estate. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. You just are. And, I've done this business 50 years. Everybody's talking about this recession, that was, I've been through 8 recessions. Yeah, this is nothing. I laugh when people go, oh, the rates are so horrible. I'm thinking, they were 7% when I got into business in 73. I think, again, this gets back to understanding that if you really want success in life, you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. Build yourself a bench of successful people that you meet in life. And by the way, success doesn't necessarily mean they're wildly rich.
That's
I know
true.
a lot of people who are wealthy are just not happy. Just because you got money doesn't mean jack to some people. And, I'm as wealthy as the next guy, but we don't spend any money on anything, But what I've learned is build yourself a bench of people that you know and you trust. And they can be a sounding board for you. And a lot of that gets back to your personality too, Vinki. And that one of the things that Bain taught us is that there's 4 basic personality styles out there. Okay. And it's good to know what your personality style is, because certain personalities are much more apt to have a down day than to say, yeah, everything's got to be great. The CEO personality, they don't really have a down day. They're just constantly driving to hit a goal. And they can be abrasive. They're not always the nicest people, but they're good at running companies. And he taught us that each personality style has certain quirks about them that you need to understand. Okay. You and I are more in that high I category where we love people, we get along well with people, we like to do things with people. For us, that's our team leaders, our managers. They've got to be high eyes. Now, they're prone to having good days and bad days too, by the way. So I think a lot of it is just a realistic concept of knowing that if you're going to succeed, you got to learn to get back on the horse when things don't go well. And that's going to happen when they do. Gary and I were very fortunate. We didn't really have any self-doubt as we were building this thing. But you got to remember, I've been doing it for 8 years. Gary'd been doing it for 6. We'd already been in up and down cycles. We knew they were going to occur. And fortunately for us, this thing grew. And then, after we visited with Bain and figured out the franchise, it hockey sticked. It's just, and so I can tell you that we can make mistakes, and everybody does. But again, it's an attitude thing. the attitude you want to have is you got to learn from mistakes. I'm a
Yeah.
firm believer in that. I mean, it's kind of like when they interview the high school coach who just won the championship. Well, coach, what did you do? Well, the boys worked hard and blah, blah, blah. Not really saying anything. And then you go to the coach who lost and you say, well, coach, what'd you learn from this? Oh, man, we learned this. We learned not to pull a screen on the 20-yard. I mean, so making mistakes, and by the way, that's a very American thing. It's not a worldwide deal. If you're in China and you fail, that stays with you forever. They don't
That's
look
true.
at it the same way. In America, if you fail and you come back, everybody loves that story.
That's true. Actually, my next question was regarding that as well. I was going to ask you, since you've been through so many down cycles, for 41 years, you've been in the industry. So I was going to ask you, there might have been a time that the decision that you made didn't go as well as you predicted or you were thinking is going to go. So how did your mindset help you to overcome that failure? And how did you bounce back? That's what I wanted to hear from you.
Yeah, well, I mean, for example, every real estate deal I've ever done has not been unicorns and rainbows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we built a project that we got finished in, we started the development in 05. It came out of the ground in 07, just in time for the Great Recession.
I know.
We couldn't even sell a house. I mean, the market collapsed. It went away. We lost, I don't know how much we lost, but we managed to sell it to another builder 3 years later, but it cost us money. But my attitude about that kind of stuff is, okay, what I learned from that. And that's the beautiful thing about Americans. That's how they tend to look. It's okay, what was my lesson? When my kids came home and they said, Dad, burn it, I made a mistake and blah, blah, blah. I would always look at them and I would say, what'd you learn from that? And what I was trying to tell them is, hey, failing like that's okay. Because it means you went out on a limb to take a risk. There was a study done, Vinki, this is great. I've ended a lot of my speeches around the country with this sometime. I can't remember the guy's name, but he interviewed 100 people over the age of 100. Okay.
Wow.
And he asked them one question. He said, if you could do it all over again, what would you do? And he said he got 3 answers. Answer number 1 was, I would have risked more. I would have taken a chance more.
That's true. I know what we are saving for. By the end of the day, everything's gonna pass, right?
That's it. I mean, I would have, when I said I was going to take that trip to Japan, Dad, burn it, I should have done that, but that was the first thing they said. Second thing they said was, I would have lived every day better.
Nice.
Okay? I would have, I do that now, 70 years old. I get up in the morning and I go, thank you, Jesus. I get another day. You with me? And, it's my way of looking at life now, because obviously I'm at the age where I've got some friends passing on. And generally at this age, it's cancers and things like that, so who knows when you get that. But the reality is it makes me think about doing things that we've always been thinking about doing. What am I waiting on? It's kind of like my wife says, when are we going to spend the money?
I know, exactly.
And the third thing that they said, and I thought this was very telling, I would like to leave proof that I had existed here on earth. I want to leave something. I want to leave something behind. I want, because you come in with nothing, you go out with nothing. It would be nice for people to go, I used to love that podcast that Vinki did. Man, she had some great guests on that podcast, They wanted to leave something behind. to let people know that they were there. I remember when my mom passed, and my dad died when I was 10. We were not rich by any means. I mean, we all went to work. We weren't poor, but we were working our butts off pretty early. And I remember my mom looking at me, man, this is like 2 or 3 years before she passed away. And she said, my proudest accomplishment in this life has been you 3 kids. And, mom was a Depression era child. I mean, they grew up poor, had a high school education. She worked retail all her life after my dad died. Of course, she was great at it, but, it's not like she amassed, massive wealth and all this stuff. Her biggest thing to her was her 3 kids. So you really want to live up to your mom's expectations when your mother says that. And I think I was able to do that for her, and I'm very proud of that. But again, there's that basic human need. Because human nature never really changes. It always stays the same. That's one of my rules, by the way, of life. Everything changes except human nature.
That's true. And I agree on your principle. Actually, I love the 3 principles that you have that, if you have to go back and relive, risk more. Everybody says that, like you said, it's very important. And I don't even know why we are saving ourselves for what, basically. Like I said, by the end of the day, everybody's going to pass. Nobody's going to stay forever. Everybody's going to pass. Nobody's going to fail this life. I'm telling you, everybody's going to pass in their own time. And live every day. That's very important, because in this chaos called life, often people forget to live. They're just chasing all the time, chasing money, chasing fame, chasing cars, houses, whatever the chase is. They forget to live. It's very important to breathe, slow down, and live. And number 3, leaving a legacy is very, very important. And that you can do that through, you can leave the money, you can leave your story behind. Like your mom, she worked so hard, and then I'm pretty sure she's going to live forever through your grandkids and their grandkids, because the story is going to keep on and on. I have learned that in your life, you die twice. Once you die, when the physical body is gone, you shed the physical body. Second time is when the last person who knows your name, who remembers you, dies, then you die. Otherwise, you live forever. So that's the legacy I wanted to leave behind. So I know I can keep on talking to you. You're such a knowledgeable person. I really appreciate all your knowledge and wisdom. But I wanted to ask you one more golden nugget, because we are out of time. Then we'll go into rapid fire. So share one more golden nugget with my audience. Anything on mindset or anything related to success, or how they can succeed, or what thing they can change in their life. Anything that you like to share.
I've always been a big believer, and it's a very simple rule I have, and it's this. It's kind of rule number 1, even in the real estate business. Keep it simple.
Simple. That's true.
Keep it simple. Don't make it complicated. Most people go off and they way too many ways to attack this, whatever you can do to make your service, your input simple but effective, but simple, you're going to be the one that succeeds. Because we're in a world now that is, oh God, it is so complicated.
That's
stuff
so
that we're
true.
doing. And I find that when we're going out for business or friendships or whatever, I just say, listen, you're not going to have to worry about anything. We're going to handle it from soup to nuts for you. Because in the long run, if you can gather the expertise from people who really care about you, that's really what's most important, isn't it? And they're going to go, God, yeah.
That's so true. I agree on that 100%. I think life is very simple. We complicate it. The more the things are simple, the more you're gonna feel successful or gonna feel happy about it, because you're not getting entangled. You're living like a simple, clean way. So this brings us to our rapid fire round. I'm gonna ask you 5 questions. You're gonna answer it in 1 word or 1 sentence only. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. The first question is, what is one of the most important things that you have learned in your life, and how did your life change after learning it?
Character matters.
I like that. Share one good book that you like to recommend to my audience.
Probably The Invisible Touch
Oh, okay. And
by Harry Beckwith. Great marketing genius.
okay, I'll make a note of that. In one word, what does life mean to you?
Love. Love.
That's a
Spread it
good one.
around. Spread it around. I love the guys I work with. I love my wife. My kids understand that. Kids hear what you say, but they learn by watching you.
That's so true.
So if you love your spouse and they see this, that's how they learn what that word means.
That's so true. Thanks for sharing that. What is your biggest passion?
I have 3. Racquetball, 3 times a week. Shooting things. Birds, if it flies, it dies. Of course, we eat everything we shoot. And sailing.
Nice, that's a good one. If you could turn back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself and why? I think you gave me that answer earlier, but let's hear your version now.
What would I tell myself and why? I don't know about that, but I will tell you this much.
Mm-hmm.
I was 10 years old when my father passed.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how often I've wanted to go back to be able to just visit with my father.
Mm-hmm.
But there's things I don't even know about him. And as I've grown older and I'm a dad, I'm a grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
I miss that. I think about it monthly. I wish my dad was around where I could ask him questions about, Dad, what did you do in the war? I knew he was in Okinawa. I don't even know his family. It's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. He had 9 siblings. I only met 3 of them. I don't
Mm-hmm.
even know his family.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. So yeah, I do. I go back and I think about that all the time.
Thanks, Joe. I really appreciate that part right there. So close to your heart, and it means a lot to you. I can understand that. So if you can share, how can people reach out to you?
Well, obviously we do the land fund, and there's a website for that, which is joewilliams.land. Okay. And of course, via KW, you got my email, Vinki, which is my development email, which you're welcome to share that with people.
Perfect.
But I don't know how quick I can get back to it sometimes because when you have 200,000 people inside your company, obviously email gets pretty bulky.
That's true, but it's incredible what you've been doing, Joe. And I feel really proud today that you came to my show and you share your insight with us. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Enjoyed it, Vinki. You do a great service for everybody. I'm excited to be able to help. So everybody make it an awesome end of the year this year because it's going to be good. You're alive and you're well and you're listening. So we'll see you sometime in the future.
Yes, thank you so much.
All righty.